2024 was a huge year for WWE. It was the start of the self-proclaimed Paul Levesque era. It was the year of CM Punk's return to in-ring competition. It was the year where John Cena announced his retirement and The Rock came back as a heel. And of course, it was the year where Roman Reigns' iconic title reign came to an end. However, more important than anything, this was a year full of great wrestling matches. So I thought it would be fun to break down the best matches of the year. I initially just wanted to do a top 10 list, but there were so many matches that I wanted to include, so my top 10 list eventually became a top 20 list. And then there were more matches I wanted to include, so my top 20 list became a top 30 list. And eventually I just sat back and thought, let's just talk about them all. And that is exactly what we're going to do. Every WWE Premium Live Event match of 2024 ranked from worst to best. That's right, strap in, because I'm going to include everything. I'm going to include the 5 matches from Saturday night's main event. I'm going to include any match that was on the pre-show of a PLE, and one match that technically wasn't a match, but in my opinion, it was still enough of a match to warrant a spot on this list. I wasn't able to watch all of the NXT PLEs this year, so I'm not going to include them. This is just going to be the main roster, which means we have 77 matches to talk about and rank from the worst match of the year to the best. And let me tell you, this was no easy feat. I actually went back to rewatch all of the PLEs leading up to this, just so I could have a fresh take in mind for all of the matches. Upon rewatch, some of them got better, and some of them got worse. So this list isn't going to go off of what I initially gave these matches, because my opinions on most of them have actually changed a bit. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm Brandon, and this is Wrestling Talk. Yes, that is the best I could come up with. So coming in at last place, number 77, is Jimmy versus Jey Uso at WrestleMania 40. I think we all could have seen this one coming. From an in-ring standpoint, it was just a super kick fest, and from a storytelling standpoint, there really wasn't much of it. Apart from that one moment where Jimmy pretended to apologize to Jey, and no one in the entire world was buying it other than Jey, this was easily the most disappointing PLE match of the year, easily the weakest match of WrestleMania 40. Jey Uso has come out and said that their time got significantly cut for this match, so I would absolutely be down for them to run it back one day. But in terms of the match that we got, it was slow, repetitive, didn't do anything from a story standpoint, and also it makes you think, just because these two are an amazing tag team together doesn't necessarily mean they have good in-ring chemistry with each other one-on-one. Honestly, after this match ended, I didn't want to see any more super kicks ever. But anyway, moving on. Coming in right above it is actually going to be a pre-show match, and that is Indi Hartwell and Candice LeRae versus Asuka and Kairi Sane of Damage Control at the Elimination Chamber. I think the biggest reason why this was above Jimmy and Jey is because it wasn't necessarily disappointing. No one really had any expectations for this at all. Indi Hartwell got a great homecoming reaction in Australia, but honestly, her and Candice LeRae just didn't really match well with Asuka and Kairi Sane. To me, Asuka and Kairi carried the match. There was nothing about it that was particularly memorable, but there was also nothing about it that was particularly offensive. Am I ever going to watch it again? No. Would I say it was a good match? No. But at the very least, it gave all of these women an opportunity to be on a PLE pre-show. Coming in next is another match for the women's tag team titles, and that is Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Alba Fire and Isla Dawn at Bash in Berlin. The reason this match didn't work for me is because it was so similar to so many other Bianca and Jade tag matches, where the match starts off with Bianca, she shows off her athleticism, but then the heel team becomes nefarious and isolates Bianca for the majority of the match, and then eventually Bianca gets the hot tag on Jade, Jade comes in there and cleans house, and then you just have the standard finishing sequence where Bianca and Jade work together and wrap the match up pretty quickly. This match was like the third or fourth time I had seen that same structure, so by the time I was seeing it again on a PLE, I was just kind of over it. Not to mention, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn aren't really working right now as their current characters. In this match, I guess they were heels, but in Clash at the Castle, they were probably baby faces. However, it was fine enough because Jade does have that star power and Bianca is one of the best wrestlers ever. It was fine enough though because Jade does have that star power and Bianca is one of the best wrestlers working today. say, but both tag teams just didn't really have that chemistry, and the structure of it was very redundant, so the whole thing just felt flat. Coming in next, Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax at Crown Jewel for the inaugural Crown Jewel Women's Championship. To me, this match was a bit of a mess, mainly because it was only given like 8 to 10 minutes. To me, that is not enough time for a championship match. Liv and Nia didn't really have the best chemistry because they're both heels, so the crowd really wasn't cheering for either of them. And then it was only like 4 minutes into the match where all of the overbooking stuff started happening. You had Tiffany come in, and then Raquel and Dom. The whole thing just felt messy, and it did nothing to progress any story. The tension between Nia and Tiffany was exactly the same after this match as it was before, and let's be honest, the whole idea of a Crown Jewel championship is pretty meaningless. It did nothing for Liv once she won it, and I just hate the whole idea of the Crown Jewel championship because one champion has to pin another, which therefore makes whoever gets pinned look like the weaker champion, and that is exactly what happened to Nia Jax after this match. In my eyes, she became the secondary champion, and it doesn't help that right after losing to Liv Morgan, she joined her team for War Games. I just think the whole idea of this match was really damaging for Nia, and then from an in-ring standpoint, it wasn't all that good. Rounding out our bottom 5 is another pre-show match, and that is Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae at King and Queen of the Ring. Compared to the other pre-show match this year, I thought this one was way better, mainly because Bianca and Jade are just absolute powerhouses, and I felt that they worked better with Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. All 4 of them just had better chemistry with one another, and specifically Candice LeRae I thought really did well in this match after turning heel. It was cool to see Bianca and Jade use this pre-show match as a way to test out some new moves, and while it wasn't anything special, I actually had a bit of fun with it. Next up, we got another women's tag team title match, and that is Bianca and Jade versus Alba and Isla versus Shayna and Zoe at Clash at the Castle. A few botches aside, to me this match just felt kinda awkward. It felt very much like people were just hitting rehearsed moves, like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and now you do this, and then we're gonna do this. It didn't really have a good flow to it, but it did have a genuinely shocking finish, which I actually really appreciated. We don't get a whole lot of truly shocking finishes these days, so I was happy to see one in a women's tag team title match. It was fine enough, but overall it just felt too polished, too rehearsed, and honestly too slow. I just don't think the other two teams were able to keep up with Bianca. Next up, Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker at SummerSlam. From an in-ring standpoint, it was solid, but I don't think this was the crowning moment of Braun Breaker that WWE wanted it to be. I still think it was weird to have him lose to Sami Zayn at Money in the Bank clean, then have him beat Sami Zayn at SummerSlam right after in a kinda competitive match. To me, it just didn't make Braun Breaker feel like this monster. SummerSlam 2024 was an excellent PLE across the board. You're gonna see a lot of matches from that show a lot higher up on this list, but this match to me was the bottom of the barrel. It was fine, but it's nothing I'm gonna go back and revisit. Next up, the OG Bloodline versus the new Bloodline at Crown Jewel. I know a lot of people might be mad that this match is this low on the list, but to me, it's exactly where it needs to be because it felt more like a main event on SmackDown than a PLE match. Even including the post-match angle with Sami Zayn, this match just didn't do much for me. From an in-ring standpoint, it was fine. From a story standpoint, it was pretty much a wash. And most importantly, if I want to see Bloodline versus Bloodline action, I'm gonna rewatch the War Games match. This one, I'm probably never gonna rewatch it. It was a perfectly fine match that got everyone on the card for Crown Jewel, and that's about it. Next up, we got Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits versus the Final Testament at WrestleMania 40. From an in-ring standpoint, this was a pretty entertaining match. There was a lot of nostalgia, a lot of chaos, but the story leading into this match wasn't all that compelling, and there was pretty much no heat leading into the match either. I actually had the pleasure of being at WrestleMania 40, and when this match started, my area of the stadium started chanting, "This is random." So take that for what you will. I like all of the participants involved, and honestly, I don't think this match did anything bad, but when you don't have something to care about, like characters you're rooting for, villains you hate, you just are left with a fine match. And that's what this was. It was just an excuse to get everyone on the card in some type of a story. Next up, we have a fatal 4-way: Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton versus AJ Styles versus LA Knight at the Royal Rumble. This was a situation where WWE wanted to knock off 3 birds with 1 stone. Coming off of Survivor Series with Randy Orton's return, obviously we had to do Roman versus Randy. But before that, the Bloodline also took out AJ Styles for a few months, so we had to do Roman versus AJ. And coming off of the Bloodline interference at Crown Jewel, we needed to have a rematch between LA Knight and Roman. So let's just put them all together. Did it work? Not really. From a story standpoint, I loved seeing the 3 guys work together to take down Roman at the start of the match. It was a really compelling story beat that was then dropped instantaneously. And then after that, it just became all 4 guys hitting their signature moves on each other. It was fine for what it is, but there was never any doubt that Roman wasn't going to win. So a bit messy, a bit low stakes, and having Solo interfere again really solidified to me that Roman Reigns' title reign needed to end. Because keep in mind, this was his last title defense before WrestleMania 40. And when you look at this match, and then the one with LA Knight at Crown Jewel, and then the one with Jey Uso at SummerSlam, Roman Reigns was not a part of very good matches or stories. And to me, this match was the last straw, where after it ended, I actually remember verbally saying, man, I'm tired of this title reign. Next up, Rey Mysterio and Andrade versus Santos Escobar and Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania 40. This one is actually kind of disappointing because I was really excited for this match when it was initially announced. I thought Rey and Santos had an excellent story between those two. I loved Santos' heel turn. Looping in Andrade and Dominic Mysterio I thought only made this better. But then when you get to the actual match at WrestleMania 40, there weren't any stakes to it. The rest of the LWO and Legado del Fantasma all got involved, to where it makes you wonder why they didn't just do a 5-on-5 tag match. And then the Philadelphia Eagles players getting involved, to me, was just kind of whatever. It was fine enough, it was fun enough, but it does not hold a candle to Rey versus Dom at WrestleMania 39. Next up, Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker at Money in the Bank. I don't know what it is, but Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker didn't really have the best PLE matches in my opinion. I know there were people that liked the matches, I just wasn't really one of them. To be honest, I think their best match was the 2 out of 3 Falls match they had on Raw right after SummerSlam. If that match was on a PLE, it would have made it very high on this list. As far as this match goes, I definitely liked it more than their SummerSlam rematch, and that's about all I have to say. I think the decision to have Braun just lose clean wasn't necessarily the right one. But yeah, it was fine, and honestly, I think it would have been better if Braun Breaker won the IC title here versus at SummerSlam. Next up, we got LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura at Survivor Series. Next up is LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura at Survivor Series. This was an interesting match where the bad guy basically dominated the good guy for the majority of the match, and then the bad guy won. Off the top of my head, I don't think WWE has done another match like that the entire year. So I think that's worth appreciating. I do wonder what that does to LA Knight as a character though, because he basically got dominated for an entire match straight up. Who knows, but in terms of the match we got, I thought it was very entertaining. It was a great return for Shinsuke Nakamura. LA Knight was able to get a few good moves in, but apart from that, Shinsuke made very easy work of him. Next up, Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens at Crown Jewel. So this technically was not a match. The bell never rang and a winner was never declared. But to me, it was still somewhat a match to where it warrants a spot on this list. It wasn't just a brawl segment where it was 2 guys punching each other, security separated them, and then that was it. They still had a bit of a match. Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis got involved, and I really liked the finish. So I decided to include it on this list. It's not like it was going to make my top 20. So in terms of the segment that we got, I thought it was an absolute blast, and I loved the finish where Kevin Owens did this big stage dive. It took both him and Randy out, and then we just cut to commercial break. It was highly entertaining. I had a great time with it. Next up is Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi versus Damage Control at WrestleMania 40. To me, this is an example of a match that had one clear mission, and it achieved that. And that was to make Jade Cargill look like an absolute star. And again, mission accomplished. She looked great here. The entrance that the big three had was incredible and iconic. Bianca showed why she's one of the best working today. And when Jade finally got tagged in, it was a huge moment and she cleared house. Everyone played their roles well. This wasn't one of the best matches of WrestleMania, but it was solid enough and it established Jade as a huge star. Next up, Gunther versus Damian Priest at Survivor Series. So this is a match that actually kind of upsets me because it has the exact same finish as their match from SummerSlam. I hate that. From an in-ring standpoint, it was solid. Both guys have great chemistry together. Their SummerSlam match was incredible. More on that later. But honestly, the reason this match is so low is because of the finish. Having Gunther win and Damian lose the exact same way as their first match did neither of them any favors. It made Damian look stupid for not assuming that Finn would interfere. It made Gunther look weak because, again, the only way he could beat Damian is having Finn interfere. It just made everyone involved look a bit weaker than they were when they went into this match. Not to mention, if I want to watch Gunther versus Damian again, I'm watching their SummerSlam match every time. So yeah, this was a solid enough match with a really poor booking decision that brings it down very low for me. Next up, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Kairi Sane and Asuka of Damage Control at Backlash France. From an in-ring standpoint, is this a better match than Gunther versus Damian? No. But come on. It's the crowd. The crowd in France added so much to this match and really every match on that card. When I'm putting together this list, I'm not just looking at the in-ring work. I'm looking at the storytelling, I'm looking at the atmosphere, the crowd, the pageantry, all of it. And from that perspective, I think this match is better than Gunther versus Damian at Survivor Series. The crowd was super into this match. Jade and Bianca looked invincible. Kairi and Asuka were great. Asuka was dealing with an injury during this match and she still put in a great performance. And when Jade hit her finishing move on Kairi, I think it's called Jaded, that was a huge moment. It was awesome. Rewatching this match back was actually a really fun time. I wouldn't mind rewatching it again, honestly. Next up is the Women's War Games match. So unlike the last match I mentioned, this match was actually kind of hindered by the crowd because the crowd was completely quiet until the match officially started, which was like, what, 20 minutes in? As an overall match, this was a bit of a hot mess. There were a few botches, there were times you could hear the wrestlers calling spots, and from a storytelling perspective, it didn't really feel like it was Team Rhea versus Team Liv. It felt like it was Rhea versus Liv, and there were all these other wrestlers in there too. And even when Team Rhea won, it didn't feel like Team Rhea beat Team Liv. It just felt like Rhea beat Liv, and again, other wrestlers were doing things off to the side. So with all that being said, why is it so high up on this list in front of all these other matches? And that is simply because it was more memorable and entertaining. Those two factors play a huge role in wrestling matches. Yes, it can have a lot of botches and mistakes in there, but what are you going to go back and rewatch? What are you going to go watch clips of on YouTube? In the moment, what were you having the most fun with? And to me, this match does check off those boxes. Everyone came out of it looking great, and Io Sky was the MVP of this match, by far. As long as she's able to do it, and as long as she wants to do it, Io should be in every War Games match moving forward. I think at the moment, her, Bianca, Sammy, and Jay are the four superstars that have been in every War Games match since it's come back with WWE on the main roster. But to me, when it's all said and done, Io should hold the record for most appearances in a War Games match because she is the absolute star of this stipulation. So yeah, this was a bit of a mess, but a fun one. Next up, Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed at Crown Jewel. This was a very solid match. Bronson looked great, Seth looked great. One guy went over and one guy got over. And honestly, that's all I have to say about this one. It is the definition of a 3.5 out of 5-star match. Next up, we got Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax at Elimination Chamber. This was a pretty good main event. Rhea getting the hometown welcome in Australia. Nia was great as the heel. There were some great spots in it. The outcome was incredibly predictable, but for what it was, I had a great time with it. And I'm just happy that the women got a chance to main event at least one PLE this year. I think they deserve to main event a lot more. Next up, Chelsea Green versus Michin at Saturday night's main event. From an in-ring standpoint, it was a solid match, but let's be honest, this is all about the moment. Chelsea Green being crowned the first ever Women's United States Champion. Her gear was great, she was playing off the crowd the whole time, and the finish of the match was excellent. As a match, match, I don't see myself going back to rewatch this one, but as a moment, it was incredible. A well-deserved win for Chelsea Green, who has been the MVP of the women's division for months. Next up, Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan at King and Queen of the Ring. This was the match that kickstarted Liv Morgan's insane rise to popularity, and honestly, it's a really good match. Becky's one of the best to ever do it. Liv Morgan was able to completely hold her own. This match was full of great gear, too. Liv Morgan had some Britney Spears-inspired gear, and Becky Lynch had this weird suit thing. I like Becky being a transitional champion between Rhea and Liv. It adds some complexity to Liv's title reign. Solid match. Right above it is another match from King and Queen of the Ring, and that is Lyra Valkyria versus Nia Jax. Going back to rewatch King and Queen of the Ring, I actually enjoyed this match more than Becky versus Liv. And I think that just comes down to the story that they told in the ring. It's a very tried and true story, David versus Goliath, and I thought Lyra and Nia pulled it off very well. The match was very exciting, it had a lot of big moments, and Nia's finishing move to Lyra was very effective. I know a lot of people would probably have this match a lot lower on their list, but I just don't see it. From beginning to end, I just thought it was a really solid wrestling match. Next up, Bayley versus Piper Niven at Clash at the Castle. A great hometown showcase for Piper Niven. The crowd was super into it. Chelsea Green got involved. Bayley was an absolute star. The crowd was singing the Bayley chant. It was a really solid wrestling match with, yes, a very predictable outcome, but I think the match did enough to make us think maybe we wouldn't get the predictable outcome. I don't think it's one of the best matches of the year, nor do I think it's one of Bayley's best title matches this year, but at the end of the day, it was a great showcase for Piper Niven. Next up, Damian Priest versus Jey Uso at Backlash France. Entrances aside, because let's be honest, the Jey Uso entrance was iconic, I thought this was a really solid match. I thought both guys worked well together, and I really liked the way it planted the seeds for the eventual Judgment Day split. I never for one second thought that Jey Uso was going to win, so some points have to be docked there, but this match I thought built a good foundation for Damian Priest in his title reign. At this point in time, people weren't really sold on him as champion, but with this match and then a couple others we'll talk about later, he really solidified himself as a main event guy. Next up, Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan at Bad Blood. I think Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan have excellent in-ring chemistry, and I think this match from an in-ring standpoint is just as good as their SummerSlam one. But when it comes down to the storytelling, I think that's where it really falters, because this match has such a focus placed on Dom Mysterio, mainly with him hanging in the shark cage, to where it just overshadows everything going on in the ring. And once Dom falls from the shark cage and then Rhea starts hitting him like a piñata, in my opinion, the match really goes off the rails, because then Raquel comes back and then the match gets disqualified. Because then Raquel comes back and then the match gets DQ'd, but then Raquel still tries to have Liv pin Rhea. The ending was botched. But in terms of the actual match, it is really fun. I don't think it holds a candle to their SummerSlam match though. That match is a lot higher up on this list. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam. Okay, so the moment of Roman Reigns returning at SummerSlam is iconic. It's gonna go down in history. The match that preceded it is fine. I actually think the better Cody versus Solo match is the steel cage one they had on the first SmackDown on USA Network. But in terms of this match, it is solid enough. Cody's Cody, Solo does great, Jacob Fatu gets involved, and I think he's the reason this match is elevated as high as it is. I'm not angry that this match main evented SummerSlam. I just think it got overshadowed by Roman Reigns' return to a point where people look more fondly at the match itself, which, again, was fine. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens at Saturday night's main event. This was a really good match that unfortunately didn't hold a candle to their match at Bash in Berlin. More on that one later. But I still had a great time with it. There were some crazy spots in it. Jesse Ventura on commentary was hysterical. The winged eagle belt came back, which was great. Only thing I really didn't like about this was the finish. Having Kevin Owens get a visual pin on Cody Rhodes and only losing because there wasn't a ref in the ring, to me, wasn't a good move. I'm sure they're going to use it as a storyline for Kevin Owens to get a rematch, but as it currently stands, I just don't like seeing Cody Rhodes basically lose the championship, but because of a technicality, he still has it. That just doesn't sit right with me. But still, I thought it was a blast. Next up, Bayley versus Nia Jax at Bad Blood. A lot of people don't like the Bayley versus Nia matches. I'm not one of them. I thought both of their matches this year were great. This one in particular had a lot of fun moments where Nia falls on the ref and then Tiffany tries to cash in, but then Nia becomes the Undertaker. But I think these two have great in-ring chemistry, and I thought they were able to exceed expectations yet again. Next up, Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn from Saturday night's main event. This was a super solid opener to the first Saturday night's main event in years. It was hard hitting, there were a bunch of crazy moves, and in the end, Drew got the win over Sami, continuing that streak of Sami never getting a win over Drew. It was the perfect show opener and the perfect return match for Drew McIntyre. Next up, Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens versus the New Bloodline at Money in the Bank. This was a solid babyface versus Bloodline match. Doesn't hold a candle to the one at Backlash or even the one at Bad Blood, but it is a very fun main event. I believe it was Jacob Fatu's first PLE match, and obviously Solo getting the pin on Cody here was very expected because we knew that was going to be the SummerSlam match. So as it is, it was a very fun, albeit predictable main event. Next up, Damian Priest versus Finn Balor at Bad Blood. This is a match that on paper should have been great, but WWE just didn't do the best job in the build-up. They didn't capitalize on Finn Balor's heel turn at SummerSlam. So by the time you got to this match, it just felt like a main event on Raw. That being said, it would have been an awesome main event because this match was relentless. By this point in time, Damian was a solidified star. Finn Balor had a lot of heat from the crowd. It was a very solid match. I just wish there was more to it. Speaking of Damian Priest, next up is Damian versus Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank. And I think both guys worked together very well, but to me, it was the finish of this match that kept it from being great. On one hand, there was a bit of a botch where Damian didn't kick out, and then of course WWE wasting the men's Money in the Bank briefcase on the Drew and Punk feud also didn't really sit right with me. That could have been a great storyline for someone like a Chad Gable or a Jey Uso, but they just kind of fed it to a feud that in my opinion didn't need it. But putting that to the side, it was still a really good match before the finish. I thought Damian and Seth were both on fire in this one. Next up, the men's Royal Rumble. Here's the thing with Royal Rumble matches, even if they're awful, they're still gonna make it pretty high up on the list because it's the Royal Rumble. To me, the biggest problem of the men's Rumble this year is that for the first half of it, other than the beginning of the match with Jimmy and Jey Uso, there weren't really any major story beats being told throughout this match. It was just a bunch of random superstars entering and getting thrown out, and it wasn't until Cody entered that the storyline really kicked in. Once we got down to the final four, it was awesome. Drew and Gunther versus Punk and Cody, I loved it. It was great because I had no idea who of these four superstars was gonna win. But then once we got down to the final two, they were trying to create a bit of a mini match between Punk and Cody, and it just didn't really work. Probably because Punk was injured by the time we got to the final two. But also, I just don't think Punk and Cody really had that in-ring chemistry, at least not in this match. It just kind of felt like a long, drawn-out way to get to the end, where we all knew Punk was going to lose at this point because he was really telegraphing it, saying things like, "I didn't come here to lose to Dusty's kid," pointing at the sign a bunch. He was just making it too obvious. Is it a particularly great Rumble? No. So was this a particularly good Rumble? It was fun enough. Next up, LA Knight versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania 40. Before it happened, I actually called this match the bathroom break of WrestleMania. In hindsight, that is absolutely not true. There were a lot of matches on WrestleMania that were a bit worse than this. And from an in-ring standpoint, this was actually really good. AJ Styles is one of the best ever, and LA Knight was really able to hold his own. There were some pretty gnarly spots in this match. My only complaint is it didn't really do much for LA Knight. I still think LA Knight versus Logan Paul for the US title should have happened at WrestleMania, and AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton could have just went on to do something else. Because this match was very fun, but there's just no stakes to it. It just felt like a feud where there wasn't much heat. Next up is Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu at Bad Blood. This match to me felt more like an event than a match, because it was all about Roman and Cody. Can they coexist? And the answer? Yes. The reason this match is as high as it is Jacob Fatu. He completely stole the show. But then you throw in Jimmy Uso's return, Roman definitively turning into a babyface once he goes back to help Cody Rhodes during a post-match beatdown, and then you throw in The Rock's return. This was a huge spectacle, and it succeeded at that. As an actual wrestling match, it was pretty good. Next up, Liv Morgan versus Io Sky at Saturday night's main event. Yes, I liked this more than Cody versus Kevin Owens at Saturday night's main event. And I think the biggest reason is I didn't like the finish of Cody versus KO, whereas Liv versus Io I enjoyed the whole way through. Io Sky is one of the best wrestlers on the planet, and Liv Morgan was able to hold her own with her. She kept up with her every step of the way. There were some really unique, cool moves in this match, a few botches aside. I thought this was a great win for Liv Morgan that really helped establish that her title reign wasn't just about Rhea Ripley. I could see myself going back to rewatch this one too. I thought it was a blast. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus Gunther at Crown Jewel for the Crown Jewel Men's Championship. This is a match that on paper should be a lot higher on this list, but in execution, I wasn't big on it. A lot of that comes down to the fact that I'm not a fan of the Crown Jewel Championship. And honestly, I don't think the right guy won. The whole crisis of confidence storyline that they told with Gunther after this really wasn't that compelling to me. And it's kind of weird that now WWE has to say only 2 people have pinned Gunther, Sami Zayn at WrestleMania and Cody Rhodes at Crown Jewel. It just doesn't sit well with me. But pushing that aside, I don't think it's one of Gunther's best matches of the year. I don't think it's one of Cody Rhodes' best matches of the year. It just felt fine. And that's disappointing because a matchup between 2 wrestlers of this caliber should have been a lot better. Next up is Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble. This was a match I almost forgot happened this year, but it did, and it was really good. This match proved to me how good Logan Paul was, not just from an athletic standpoint, because we already knew that, but also from a storytelling standpoint. Because his, what do you want to call it, acting performance in this match was great. He was playing the nefarious, conniving, cowardly heel so well, and he was selling the moves even better. Even though he lost the match, Kevin Owens still looked great, and I think some of that has to do with how well Logan Paul was selling for him. Not to mention, I loved the Dusty finish, where even though he won the match, Logan Paul had to be basically carried out, and Kevin Owens was standing tall. The camera angle when the ref saw the brass knuckles on Kevin Owens, brilliant. Next up, Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania 40. This was a match that a lot of people were super hyped for years. And at the end of the day, it was a little disappointing because it just didn't have stakes to it. Everyone knew and wanted Rhea to win, even though she was the heel. Becky Lynch was the babyface, but she didn't really have that momentum going into WrestleMania. The 2 of them were still able to put on a really good match, but it always felt like something was missing. Something wasn't clicking. Some of that might have been the crowd in Philadelphia who was just completely freezing, so they weren't as involved as they should have been. And then right before the match itself, Becky had a fever, Rhea unfortunately had a panic attack. Some of it might have to do with the fact that Becky and Rhea might not have great in-ring chemistry. I still thought it was a really good match, but I don't think it lived up to the potential that a lot of people had predicted for it. It certainly didn't hold a candle to Rhea versus Charlotte at WrestleMania 39, or Becky versus Bianca at WrestleMania 38. Next up, Gunther versus Damian Priest versus Finn Balor at Saturday night's main event. In my opinion, this was the best match of that show. It was a hard-hitting, relentless triple threat with an awesome finish. The finish of this match was so good. It was definitive. After this entire crisis of confidence storyline with Gunther, he has this awesome spot where he tries to lift up Damian Priest to throw him on the steel steps. He doesn't quite get all of them, and then he just muscles him up, throws him down, rushes to the ring, takes out Finn Balor, gets the win. It was insane. That moment alone made the entire match for me. Next up, Bayley versus Nia Jax at SummerSlam. Again, I know a lot of people don't really like these matches. I do. I loved this one. I had 0 expectations for this match going into it, and these 2 completely blew me away. There were so many great moments in this match, of course, with the big one being Bayley lifting. Of course, There were so many great moments in this match, with the big one of course being Bayley lifting up Nia for a powerbomb. For a match that ended Bayley's title reign, I thought this was great. I actually find this match immensely rewatchable too. It's a lot of fun. And I wouldn't mind Bayley and Nia running it back for round 3 at some point. Coming up next, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre at Bash in Berlin. I feel like a lot of you are mad at me because how could I possibly rank a Punk versus Drew match so low? Keep in mind, it's not low. It's at number 36? That's pretty good. But also, the reason this match isn't as high for me is simply the structure of it. The whole idea of a strap match and having to touch the 4 corners and wait for them to light up, it just didn't work for me. I found it to be a huge momentum killer where instead of just getting a pin on someone, you had to touch 4 corners of the ring. It made for a kind of awkward finish. Don't get me wrong, it is still a very entertaining match. But when it comes to the Punk versus Drew feud, this is not the one I'm going to go back and revisit the most. I'll definitely go back to revisit it here and there, but I think their other 2 matches are better. And again, the whole idea of the strap match just felt a little awkward to me. Next up, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest versus Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio at Bash in Berlin. The Terror Twins versus the Judgment Day. At SummerSlam, both Rhea and Damian took some pretty big losses, so having them team up to get this adrenaline shot of a win was a great decision. This match was exactly what it needed to be. It was an absolute blast from start to finish, and it went a long way in further cementing Damian Priest as a megastar, because prior to this match, Rhea Ripley already was a megastar, so having her team with Damian only helped his star power. I don't think this was the best match of Bash in Berlin, but I think it was the most fun. Next up, Bayley versus Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton at Backlash France. Just an excellent triple threat. The crowd elevated this immensely, but all 3 performers also were incredible. Tiffany Stratton continued to make a name for herself on the main roster, and my favorite bit of the match is when she actually got taken out and it was just Bayley versus Naomi to take us home. I loved that. When I look at Bayley's title defenses, this was the best one. Next up, I think this is going to make people mad too, Gunther versus Randy Orton at Bash in Berlin. I gotta be honest, I'm not huge on the Gunther versus Randy Orton matches. I know they're both very popular with the internet wrestling community. To me, I like both of them, but I don't love them. With this match in particular, I think it's a little too slow and methodical for me. And to clarify, I don't have a problem with slow matches. I love a slow burn, as long as it has a good payoff, as long as it has that good crescendo. And to me, this match didn't really have that. Part of it is probably because I knew Gunther was going to win going into it. But to me, it felt like Gunther was trying to wrestle a Randy Orton style match here, which is very slow and methodical on purpose. And while I respected the artistry of what I was seeing, I feel like I respected it more than I actively enjoyed watching it. That being said though, it is still a solid match. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul at King and Queen of the Ring. I feel like a lot of people are probably expecting this one to be a lot higher. To me, I think it's perfectly placed where it is. From an in-ring standpoint, it's incredible. Cody Rhodes is one of the best working today, and Logan Paul is like an anomaly. But it's not one of my preferred Logan Paul matches. I don't think it holds a candle to Logan versus Seth or Logan versus Roman. Logan Paul is one of my favorite wrestlers to watch in the ring these days when he's there, and I thought these guys put on a great show. I just don't think it's one of the year's best matches. A lot of that might have to do with the fact that it was only for Cody Rhodes' title and not for the US title too. I thought that just made no sense. Either do the match when Logan doesn't have the US title or make it for all the gold. Coming up next, the Judgment Day versus the New Catch Republic at Elimination Chamber. This was another match I kind of forgot happened, but it did happen and it was great. From an in-ring standpoint, it was one of the best tag matches of the entire year. It just didn't have a story to it. We all knew the New Catch Republic were going to lose, and they hadn't even really established themselves as a dominant team yet. But that being said, it was still super entertaining and super fast-paced. Next up, Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable at Clash at the Castle. To me, this was a match that had so much heat behind it, and I don't know if WWE fully capitalized on it. But what would have made this match iconic is if Otis finally pushed back on Chad Gable here and not on an episode of Raw right after. If that happened during this match, this would have been iconic. But for what it is, it's still great because both of these guys are two of the best working today. Chad Gable, though, what a missed opportunity. This whole American-made thing is just not working for me right now. Next up, Randy Orton versus Gunther at King and Queen of the Ring. This match I thought was definitely better than their match at Bash in Berlin, even including the botched finish. I thought it was a bit more fast-paced, a bit more kinetic, and it was a bit more unpredictable too. Obviously Gunther was gonna win, but there was a little bit of doubt in there where Randy Orton could have won, to where I was just a bit more invested in this one as opposed to their Bash in Berlin match. I already said it before, but I'm not huge on the Randy Gunther dynamic, but that being said, I still really liked this match. I just don't think it's one of the best of the year. Speaking of Randy Orton, next up, Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 40. Just a super fun, super entertaining triple threat that got all three of these guys on the WrestleMania card, and honestly, it was probably the most light match of WrestleMania. All three guys kept it very fun, Logan with the inclusion of the Prime Truck and I Show Speed, and then Kevin Owens and Randy Orton kind of buddying up for most of the match. It wasn't necessarily a high-stakes triple threat, but it was really entertaining and really rewatchable. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles at Clash at the Castle. Cody and AJ are a match made in heaven. They put on great matches together. This is no exception. They got to use a lot of weapons and props this time. That was great. Cody countering the phenomenal forearm with a steel chair was brilliant. The only thing holding this match back is the fact that we already saw it at Backlash. So the whole thing did have a feeling of been there, done that, but I still thought it was an absolute blast, and the I Quit stipulation really helped elevate this. Alright, so this is purely by coincidence, but my next three matches are all triple threats. First up, Braun Breaker versus Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser at Survivor Series. This match was an absolute banger, namely because of Braun Breaker. Ludwig Kaiser was a great heel, Sheamus was Sheamus, but Braun Breaker was the real star here. That dude was flying across the ring. It was insane. And for my money, is Braun Breaker's best match of the year. Next up, LA Knight versus Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade at Crown Jewel. Another excellent triple threat that elevated both Carmelo and Andrade. Apart from accidentally crotching himself, I do think LA Knight really held his own here. But let's be honest, the real stars of this match were Carmelo and Andrade. They were insane. The finish of this match, though, was great. Next up, Bronson Reed versus Chad Gable versus Sami Zayn at King and Queen of the Ring. This was probably my favorite triple threat of the year, just by a hair. And that is because all three of these guys had such a good dynamic. You had the big powerhouse versus the technician versus the scrappy underdog fighter and Sami Zayn. I thought from a match perspective, it was just relentless. It was just a fantastic triple threat and my favorite match from King and Queen of the Ring. Next up, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Io Sky and Kairi Sane versus Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven at Crown Jewel. This was my favorite match at Crown Jewel. It was an excellent fatal four-way where everyone got a chance to shine. Specifically Io Sky and Kairi Sane. These two completely stole the show. But then you also had Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, who were bringing a lot of the comedic effect. It was a great showcase for Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. And from an in-ring standpoint, I actually think this was the best we have ever seen Bianca and Jade as a tag team. I thought it was the best women's tag match of the year by far. Next up, the six-pack ladder match for the undisputed WWE tag team titles at WrestleMania 40. From an in-ring standpoint, this wasn't necessarily a 5-star classic. It was just an absolutely hilarious, chaotic mess. In the best way possible. Some of the spots in this match were absolutely insane, namely from DIY and New Catch Republic. But let's be honest, the star of this match was R-Truth. This entire match was made so R-Truth could finally get a WrestleMania moment, and he did, and it was glorious. This was one of the few moments on WrestleMania Night 1 where the crowd finally broke free of their frozen slumber and got involved. R-Truth was hilarious when he went for a pin, even though it was a ladder match. It's all so simple and so funny. Honestly, Honestly, it's one of the most rewatchable matches of the entire year. Okay, are you still there? Because we have finally reached the top 20. And coming in at number 20 is another ladder match, and that is the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. This is actually a good contrast from the six-pack ladder match at WrestleMania, because from an in-ring standpoint, it was incredible. Andrade and Carmelo were obviously the MVPs. They were insane, but everyone came to play. Chad Gable, Drew McIntyre, LA Knight, Jey Uso. Everyone had a standout moment. And honestly, the only bad thing about this match is that it was completely discounted a few hours later, where WWE completely wasted the Money in the Bank briefcase, which I still think was a really bad decision, because the Punk-Drew feud did not need it. Honestly, if whoever won the briefcase went on to have a bit of a reign with it, I think this match would be remembered way more fondly. Because as it currently stands, it's an excellent match. And spoiler alert, it's not even the best ladder match of the year. Coming in at number 19, Logan Paul versus LA Knight at SummerSlam. To me, this was Logan Paul's best match of the year. Let's call a spade a spade. He did not have a great reign with the US title, but I'm happy to say that his final match with it was excellent. Him and LA Knight put on a show-stealing performance from an in-ring standpoint. Some of the spots here were insane. And even though this match didn't happen when I wanted it to happen at WrestleMania, it still exceeded all expectations. I thought it was incredible. Coming in at number 18, the men's War Games match. Ever since Backlash, this was one of the matches that people predicted was going to happen in 2024, and it did not disappoint. It was an absolute chaotic mess, but in a good way. CM Punk and Roman's dynamic was obviously the standout story beat here, but there were some insane spots in this match, namely Bronson Reed's tsunami off of the top of the cage. His tsunami coupled with Punk saving Roman was a moment. Unfortunately, Bronson's going to be out for a while because of that moment, but it helped make for an excellent War Games match. Honestly, it's probably my favorite War Games match since they've moved up to the main roster. Admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of the War Games structure, but I thought this match really did a good job with it. Coming in at number 17, The Rock and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40. This is an interesting match because it's like 40 minutes long, and it's kind of split up into 3 acts. The first act I think is very entertaining. The second act I think is meandering and confusing and very dull. And then the third act I think is excellent. So excellent, in fact, that it made it into the top 20. I thought all 4 participants did great, namely The Rock. And again, the first half of it isn't bad, it's just not memorable. But once you get into the back half, the story beats really picked up. Roman accidentally spearing The Rock is one of the most iconic moments of the year, and The Rock pinning Cody Rhodes was the perfect way to end it. It was a huge, spectacular WrestleMania event, and it lived up to expectations. Because after this match, I need to see Rock versus Cody and Rock versus Roman at some point. Next up, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens versus Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa at Backlash France. This was the perfect way to open this show. It was insane. The initial takeaway was the crowd was singing Randy Orton's song. Crowds did not used to do that before, and ever since Backlash France, they have. Apart from that, this was a great showcase for Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. Not so much Tonga Loa, but whatever. This was my favorite tag match of the year. It was brutal, it was relentless, everyone came out of it looking like a megastar, and most importantly, the crowd was so into it. It was insane. What I would have given to be in attendance at Backlash France, because that crowd was amazing. Next up, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam. This was the match that took a $1.50 bracelet and turned it into something as valuable as a heavyweight championship. The storytelling in this match was off the charts. Punk's first match back since his injury, Seth as the guest referee, Drew McIntyre winning only because of CM Punk screwing himself. It was all incredible. Honestly, the perfect return match for CM Punk. And little did we know, it was the start of one of the most iconic wrestling trilogies ever. Next up, the Women's Elimination Chamber match. I feel like I've been saying the word insane a lot this video, but from an in-ring standpoint, this match was insane. Everyone knocked it out of the park, but the MVP was Tiffany Stratton. This was a star-making performance for her. And even though she was a heel, she had the entire Australian crowd behind her, which was crazy. The winner in Becky Lynch was predictable, but I thought the way they got there was unpredictable. Watching this match feels like a lifetime ago too, because the Liv Morgan in this match is completely different from the Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. And after this match, Bianca Belair was basically not a single star for the rest of the year. So watching this match back now, it almost feels like it happened 3 years ago. But either way, it was absolutely incredible, and it's probably the best women's Elimination Chamber match I've ever seen. Next up, Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. I've said it before, but Liv and Rhea, I think, have excellent chemistry with each other, and this was easily my favorite Women's World Championship match of the year, mainly because it was really heartbreaking. The story they told in this match of the end of the Judgment Day was so effective, not just because Dom turned on Rhea, but the way Rhea sold it. The look on her face, we felt it. We felt that the era of the Judgment Day was over, and I just love that they were able to tell such a complete story in a match where the match starts off with Rhea and Dom walking to the ring, and it ends with Dom and Liv walking away from the ring. And then even putting that to the side, in ring, I thought it was incredible. Liv constantly trying to avoid Rhea and simply take advantage of her injuries, Rhea eventually popping her shoulder back into place. The whole thing was incredible. I loved it. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens at Bash in Berlin. Similar to Liv versus Rhea, this was another match where I think story was paramount. This idea of Kevin Owens not wanting to pull the trigger on his best friend because he thinks he's injured and he doesn't want to become the old Kevin Owens again. I thought it was so powerful. There were so many moments in this match where I was actually on the edge of my seat thinking, oh my God, is this where Kevin Owens turns heel? Is this where he capitalizes on an injury? But at the end of the day, he didn't, and it cost him the victory. It was an incredible match. At the time, I was disappointed Kevin Owens didn't turn heel during or after it, but in hindsight, it's such a perfect match as it is. And honestly, from a story standpoint, is my favorite Cody Rhodes title defense so far. I could rewatch this match back and still feel all the emotions I'm supposed to. And just missing out on our top 10 is the Women's Royal Rumble. I love Royal Rumbles. I think they're great. And to me, this was an iconic Women's Rumble. Jordynne Grace making an appearance and getting eliminated by Bianca in an absolutely brutal way. Naomi making her long-awaited return to WWE. I still miss that old theme song, by the way. Liv Morgan returning at number 30. Nia Jax having an absolutely dominant performance. And of course, the debut of Jade Cargill. It was all handled perfectly. It was moments on top of moments on top of moments. And of course, Bayley winning the Rumble was the perfect decision. Everyone was rooting for her. I don't think I liked it as much as the 2023 Women's Royal Rumble, but it was still fantastic and immensely rewatchable. All right, we have finally reached the top 10. I hope you're still there. Coming in at number 10, the Men's Elimination Chamber. This is a bit of a personal favorite of mine. I think it's incredible. As much as I love the Women's Chamber this year, my one flaw with it is that it didn't utilize the chamber as much as I wanted it to. Tiffany jumped off the top of the pod, and there were a few times that people ran into the cage, but to me, it was the Men's Chamber match that really utilized the chamber and also made it feel like a brutal, intense structure. It felt like all 6 of these guys were really going through it the entire match. To me, the MVPs of this match were Kevin Owens, who was going absolutely insane, Logan Paul, who was basically on the run from Kevin Owens the whole time, and of course Randy Orton, who worked us all with the back injury. I honestly thought he was legitimately injured, which just shows what a master worker he is. This match is arguably one of the most rewatchable of the entire year. Kevin Owens locking him and Logan Paul in one of the pods, Randy Orton giving an RKO to Logan, the final sequence between Randy and Drew, the whole thing just felt so visceral. I loved every second of it. Coming in at number 9, Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle. This was the match that, to me, solidified Damian Priest as a star. Because after that accident when Damian got his ankle caught between the ropes, I think I speak for everyone when we thought he was seriously injured. Yet he persevered and not only finished the match, but used that potentially injured leg on a bunch of kick moves. It was crazy. These two guys put on an absolute banger. And obviously the cherry on top was CM Punk screwing over Drew McIntyre in his home country. That is an iconic wrestling moment. Coming in at number 8, Sami Zayn versus Gunther at WrestleMania 40. It's crazy to think that this match wasn't even the original plan for WrestleMania. The plan was Brock Lesnar versus Gunther, and once Brock got taken off, they put Sami in that role, and now I don't think I can think of it in any other way. This match was incredible. They were in Philadelphia for WrestleMania, so it was great that Sami Zayn and Chad Gable were telling a bit of a Rocky story, where Sami was Rocky, Chad Gable was Apollo, and I guess Gunther was Mr. T. But when you incorporate that story with the incredible in-ring work, this became an iconic WrestleMania match and was the perfect way to end Gunther's Intercontinental title reign. Sami Zayn as that scrappy underdog character is so good. So him fighting from underneath to get this once-in-a-million victory over Gunther, it was just such a beautiful moment, and one of the best matches of the year. Coming in at number 7, Bayley versus Io Sky at WrestleMania 40. We all knew this match was going to be good, but man was it great. Io Sky reversing out of the roast plant with a flip has been burned into my mind. It is so iconic. This was the perfect end to Io Sky's title reign. It was the perfect end to the Bayley versus Damage Control storyline. It was the perfect culmination of Bayley's babyface turn. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with this match. It's perfect. And it's a match that got way better on rewatch. If you go back and look at my original WrestleMania 40 ranked video, I had this match at like number 8 or something out of a 13 match card. I don't know what I was thinking, because once I went back and rewatched it, it really clicked for me just how incredible this match was. It's just so great that Bayley finally got a WrestleMania moment. Coming in at number 6, Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 40. This is also the textbook definition of a match getting better upon rewatch. Because when I watched it in person, I thought it was fine. To me, it was a finisher fest with a lot of shenanigans at the end. But once I went back and watched it on TV, holy crap, this thing's incredible. The initial 5 seconds of the match have you on the edge of your seat already, because you're thinking, oh my god, is this going to be another Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 28? And then after that, we're off to the races. CM Punk adds so much on commentary, and when Drew finally does beat Seth, it is a heartbreaking moment. Seth sells it so well. He helped Cody Rhodes and in return lost everything. And then the match gets further elevated with what happens after, because Drew gloating in front of Punk retaliating, and then Damian Priest cashing in is such an iconic WrestleMania moment. This match is just so good. I love it. All right, you still there? Because we have finally reached the top 5. And coming in at number 5, Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles at Backlash France. In 3 words, best crowd ever. Seriously. The crowd is so good here. This is what every wrestling crowd should be like. And this is why the US crowds have it way too good. We get WWE shows all the time, so we're not necessarily as active as we should be. Whereas you look at a crowd like France, who doesn't get WWE shows all the time, and when they do, they show out. This was Cody Rhodes' first title defense, and honestly, it's perfect. Did I ever think he was going to lose? No. But you don't always need that. Sometimes a predictable outcome is the right outcome. To top it off, AJ Styles is one of the best wrestlers ever. Him and Cody put on an absolutely epic match. Huge spots, false finishes, and just a real visceral intensity to it. Honestly, it really is a 5-star wrestling classic. Again, what I would have given to be in that crowd on that night. Whew. Coming in at number 4, the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. This was a chaotic, hilarious, insane match. So much so that when it ended, it got a standing ovation from the announce table. That should tell you all you need to know. Was this the cleanest match ever? No, there were a few botches. But to me, a few botches does not deter the overall quality of a match to me. Because some of the spots in this match were so crazy that I was on the edge of my seat for the entire match. With the MVPs obviously being the 2 favorites going into the match, Chelsea Green and Tiffany Stratton. This was Tiffany's moment, but honestly, Chelsea stole the show. And of course, you have to mention Io Sky. Oh my god, some of the things that she did. Along with Zoe Stark and Lyra Valkyria and Naomi, everyone brought their A game. Everyone put on an amazing show. It might be the best women's ladder match I've ever seen. It's just so good. Coming in at number 3, Damian Priest versus Gunther at SummerSlam. This was, as the kids call it, cinema. Between this match and Liv versus Rhea, SummerSlam marked the end of the Judgment Day, and I loved the way they told the story. But prior to Finn Balor's heel turn, this match was so good. It was so brutal. Gunther and Damian have such good in-ring chemistry. I lost count of how many chops there were in this match. There must have been a lot though, because Gunther's chest started bleeding. And while Clash at the Castle cemented Damian as a star, this match cemented him as a babyface. The crowd was so behind him. I loved it. And I love that Finn Balor didn't just come in to do a heel turn. He actually was on Damian's side for a bit. Gunther hitting Finn is what caused Damian to get this second life. And then it was Finn who turned on him right after. I loved every second of it. It was the best World Heavyweight Championship match of the entire year. All right, top two. I think we all know what they are. And I constantly switched back and forth in my mind about which would be two and which would be one. But I think I landed on what, for me, the correct answer is. But keep in mind, it's all wrestling. It's all subjective. So don't get mad. But number two, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood. I mean, come on. There are honestly no words that haven't already been said. It's not just the best match of the Punk-Drew feud. It's not just one of the best Hell in a Cell matches I've ever seen. It is a beautiful symphony of destruction. The story that these two guys told in the ring from beginning to end was so visceral. CM Punk may have gotten the win here, but to me, this match solidified that Drew McIntyre is the MVP of 2024. I mean, that shot of him with the bloody skull leaned up against the corner of the ring, holding the little bag full of the beads, that is iconic. Honestly, there's not much more that needs to be said. This match is incredible. It's one of the best matches I've ever seen. It is a 5 out of 5, 6 out of 5, whatever you want to call it. It is professional wrestling at its most brutal, and it brought Hell in a Cell as a gimmick back. And it's still not my number one, because my number one match of 2024 is Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, in what may very well go down as the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time. Everything about this is perfect. Cody Rhodes' entrance, to Roman Reigns' entrance, to the whole first part of the match, to all the overbooked stuff at the end, the Usos, Solo Sikoa, John Cena, The Rock, thrice in a lifetime, The Undertaker, Seth Rollins being Cody Rhodes' shield, and being the sole reason why Roman Reigns loses the title. It's all perfect storytelling. It is the Avengers Endgame of professional wrestling, which is a very commendable feat. The fact that WWE was able to craft a story so powerful and so cinematic that people are comparing it to Avengers Endgame, the second highest grossing movie of all time, that is incredible. This was the perfect way to end Roman Reigns' title reign. It was the perfect way to crown a new champion and to finish Cody's story. It was the perfect way to incorporate legends like Cena and The Undertaker. And honestly, just like Punk versus Drew, it's one of the best matches I've ever seen. I honestly don't know how WWE is going to top this. I think this will go down as the greatest WrestleMania main event in history for a while. It's just that good. But okay, that's it. That is my ranking of all 77 WWE PLE matches of 2024 from the worst to the best. For those of you that stuck around for this entire video, thanks. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and let me know your top 10 matches of the year. Apart from that, I hope everyone has a great holiday season, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.